Good afternoon. We're going to share a few family stories today. I'll take the liberty of starting with mine. This is a picture of Samuel Mitchell McKinney, my great-grandfather, and his wife, Sarah Cadle McKinney, on their mules. The picture was taken around 1902 by my grandfather, who at that time had a good camera and was taking photographs professionally. Not that he earned a lot of money at it. This picture, there's a 4 foot by 6 foot version of this that he did that's in one of my sister's home. The kind of crazy story with it is that my grandfather's mule was named Betts. And about 2 weeks after this, Betts was hit by lightning and killed. Nope, nobody was on her. As a result of that incident, this is the last picture of my grandfather ever taken. He decided that it was not a good thing to have your picture taken. True story. And of course, if you may note that his wife is side saddle. Okay. His wife is riding side saddle, which would have been the norm in those days. Okay. Oh. Ooh. That make you feel better. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Edith Crone. Peter, I've got the video. Do you want to run that first, or you tell me when to run it? Okay. You need the mic because of the recording. You can use the other one, just turn it on if you can see where there's an off-on switch. It comes out. Here.
Oh, I got it. Ah, okay. Does that work? So, let's see. This is my mom, and the picture does certainly say some things about her, but the way I approach genealogy is to weave in history and a narrative that gives a sense of the character of the individual. And so that's what I'm going to offer you guys today. So think of this as a mini portrait, so to speak, of my mother. I have 5 children and 3 grandchildren, and it's important for me to hand down to them just a feeling of sense of connection to their ancestors. And that's why I do it this way. So I'm going to read because my brain will not retain some of the language that I want. I wonder if I should start with this one. Yeah, I have 2 bits here. Last Thursday was the 86th anniversary of our second diaspora, which brought us to physical safety in Montreal. I wish I could believe that my mom could see and hear the words that I'm about to say. It would be such a healing for her and for me if she could hear what I wish I had said to her a long time ago. You see, by her own admission, on a visit that the 2 of us made back to Italy, where we lived for a couple of years before the war, she suddenly blurted out an apology. To this day, her words seared into my memory. I know I wasn't a very good mother. I was so stunned and said nothing lest I fall apart in releasing so much grief. She quickly added, "But your father needed me." Since those days, I've learned to understand the realities that they faced that helped us survive. My parents had their hands and hearts filled with terror and tasks, not only for us, but for their parents' needs as well. This was an inconvenient time to have a child. That child was me. As I have grown in my ability to have empathy, I wish you could hear me say, "I forgive you, Mom. And please, I need you to forgive me for being so resentful towards you for so many years." Mom's likability, her substantial skills in business, her fluency in 4 languages, and the fact that she dedicated herself totally to helping my father were the key to our survival. At times, that even meant taking a risk, like hiding a few gold coins on the train that was taking us to our ship at the port of Le Havre in northern France, despite knowing that the Nazis would come on board and go through our belongings. It was one of the few ways we could leave Europe with some money to begin life over in Montreal. You want to show the Let me answer that in a minute, okay? You want to show the clip now? Clip may be a bit bumpy. This is an interview I did with her when she was about 90, roughly 90. It'll improve if you click on it. I did a lot of interviewing of my mom, so I'm very grateful for her. She had some incredible stories.
And she gave them to me. Now, my mother, since many years, collected gold coins, and she gave them to me. And I went ahead and bought yellow caramels, a bag full. And I bought yellow wax and covered the gold coins with the yellow wax, threw some of the candy out and took the wrappings and wrapped them and put them at the bottom of the bag, and on top the candy, and put the candy quite openly on the little table that you find in the sleeping cars. Okay? But at that time on the border there were no more Italian carabinieri, there were SS Nazis. And because we had immigration papers, they went through all our stuff, but got stuck on your favorite teddy bear and cut him to pieces because it was a known fact that people were hiding money in it. So the first thing in Paris we did was we bought a new teddy bear.
Final bit on this piece is that I say, I wish she could hear me say, what you did, Mom, wasn't just for my father, but for the three of us. We needed you. Thank you for all you did for the three of us. So that's part one. I'm just going to read this other part quickly too. This was, she might have been late 80s, early 90s there. And this is a little bit later. It was the same old story when I flew to Montreal and knocked on my mother's apartment door and went to give her a big hug. She recoiled, arching her back away from me and her only son's embrace. She patted me on the cheek with the back of her hand. Oh, I think I'm getting a cold, or I have cold cream all over my face. It still bothered me a little, but over the decades, less and less so. She was about 93 at the time, and as was our habit, we sat in the kitchen on our yellow, worn vinyl chairs at the tiny gray formica table with bent chrome legs and talked. You know, she said, I won't be around for much longer. Because she had always resisted this topic, I had decoded this to mean that my 3 to 4 visits a year and weekly phone calls weren't sufficient to reassure her that she had been a good mom. But because of her age and the fact that we had never spoken about what her wishes were upon her death, I dove into those cold, dark waters. I did the carpe diem thing and said, well, Mom, I've wanted to ask you about that, and posed questions and offered some options. She stuck both her fingers in her ears and uttered a long sing-song version of la 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 la. Well, a couple of years later, I was in her hospital room as the two doctors spoke. Mrs. Crone, I'm afraid the only option we can offer you is to put a tube. Oh boy, sure as hell I knew what was coming. Her very slow, determined side to side shaking of her head with pursed lips non-verbally stated her position. Rather than letting her words hang in the air, the doc finished into your abdomen. The other doc thought he might convince her of the seriousness of her condition by asking, otherwise you'll starve to death. She didn't need to say another word, but turned towards me and said, I want a second opinion from the Mayo Clinic. So that's the story. You had a question, do I remember those things? You know, it's one of those hard to say things. When I was born, I literally lived in fear. And I could see on my parents' faces their fear. And it affected me. And all these events affected me. We went through a lot of stressful and hard situations. And, you know, there are some theories, scientific theories, that have shown there's a transmission of trauma intergenerationally. And I know that even my children have a level of anxiety and fear that they've somehow picked up through the DNA. So there's a lot of interesting things. Yeah. That's part of exactly what I was going to say. You know, how much of it is hearing the story, how much of it is being able to imagine, to put oneself in one's own position. You know, they cut this teddy bear that was my security blanket into pieces, and I screamed and howled, and it was my screaming and the teddy bear getting cut up that eventually caused them to leave. Um, so somewhere in the body, some things are retained and remembered that are just hard to explain.
I have some of the things that we had talked about that I actually was able to get online earlier. So, okay, let me get. So I had put some of these together earlier. Oh, Bob, I've had you next. So you're on.
It's about the right height. There's a little echo. Is that me or? So this is my grandmother. Her name is May Ann Chapman. She was born in 1884, and she's the reason why I'm in this club, as George knows. I'm totally fascinated by her background and her history, and my goal is to learn more about her. I've discovered that she has a grandchild who lives in Sacramento. I'm going to try to visit her and see if I can get some more information. So she's from Aurora, Nebraska, and that's the county seat of Hamilton County. And I was going to do some research. Who cares? I mean, it's a small town, and what made it important for Aurora, as I learned while doing some research on it, is they were already struggling until the railroad came through there, and then they have done well. So and that's not really what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about the fact that she married this guy named Bert Chapman. They got married in the early 1900s. They lived on this ranch. They didn't have a lot of money, and so they had 4 kids. And in about 1920, I think, and I want to get more specific dates on this if I can, Bert decided to desert the family. So she's there on this ranch without a lot of money and 4 kids. And somehow she survived it. I've learned some things about it, some things I haven't learned. And then you can see from looking at her, she doesn't look like a woman who survived this almost death-like situation that she was in. Well, in 1939, she moved to California because that's where her son and my dad lived. And I was going through her stuff this morning. What do I want to say about her and what can I share with you? And I found this poem that she had written in 1939. And I was wondering, and I'm going to read that to you now, if that's okay with you. And I'm not sure if she wrote the poem before she came to California or after she had gotten here. And so there's a prelude to the poem. Then after this, I've got a few more comments. Then if you guys have questions, I'll be glad to answer what I can. So what she writes here is that I am watching a beautiful sun go down, then turn to the radio. This poem was written in 1939. From every station came news of the European conflict over the borderlines, kind of what you were just talking about. And here's the poem. Just to sail on a cloud, a golden, fleecy cloud, to the peace of that faraway land. where love reigns supreme and each eye kindly gleams, and there are no martial, Martial, martial bands. Just to find time to think of the beautiful things that were meant for us to enjoy. Made in God's image, to be perfect as He is perfect, a heart full of love to employ. And this next stanza is in quotes. Love thy neighbor as thyself, have dominion over all the earth. A bountiful, beautiful earth, she has in parentheses. Go into all the world and preach the gospel of brotherly love. There should be no dearth. Promises and rules to guide our lives, that we might be happy and free. God-inspired words have never failed. How could we so have failed He? We have wandered so far from these pathways of truth, from God's wonderful guidance and care. All the good things of life overshadowed by greed, just to get and to hold, none to share. 'Tis the wrong road we've taken, somewhere in the past. We turned from the trail that we knew and wandered so far, exploring new tricks, till we've lost the saner view. Now we stand on the brink of destruction and loss, of all that we've gained through the years. Ours the decision to make, whether to love or to hate. Only God's wisdom can conquer our fears. By Mae Chapman. So impressed. So I was born in 1942, and she's living in California. As a kid, I had a disease called Perthes, and Perthes is where the top of the hip bone gets soft. So if you walk on it, it makes the top of the hip bone, which looks supposed to look like a cue ball, it looks like a mushroom. It makes it go over, which is kind of what happened to me. So I was out of school for 3 years, and grandmother lived in the same house that I lived in. So she would watch over me sometimes. And my favorite memories are oatmeal cookies and Waldorf salad. She made beautiful cookies and a wonderful salad. What I wish was I had the maturity to ask, what was it like when you were young? What happened to your family? Didn't ask her any of those things. Well, she passed away in 1976. She was 92 years old. She's buried, I just learned, in El Cerrito, California. So again, I wish I had the opportunity and the maturity to know her better. Hopefully in our next life, that'll happen. So I'm a guitar player and a musician. I've been one for over 60 years. What I'm going to try to do is take this beautiful poem and see if I can put it to music. I'm not sure how that'll work, but we'll see how it'll work. So that's it for me. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them, but I'll learn more about grandmother and I'll pass that information along to you. Yeah. She was not. She was just deserted by her husband. She never got married again. So she lived the rest of her life as a single person and seemed to be really happy. She was very active. We lived in Berkeley, California at the time. And there's a church in Berkeley, which I think was over 100 years old then. And she was on the board and did a lot of wonderful things with that church. I need to learn more about that too. And she was a caregiver, a family, a kind of a nanny for a family in Orinda, California. And she was with those people for like 20 years. And they took good care of her, provided her transportation. She helped raise the kids and helped raise us. And but yeah, she never got married again, was single and seemed to be comfortable doing that. I couldn't imagine. I don't think she ever took a date, as far as I know. She had no interest in that. No, no. No, I just found it handwritten in a stack of stuff that I was going through. What am I going to talk about today? And I thought, oh my God, this thing is spectacular. Like, yeah, yeah. Later in life, and I'm not sure. My dad never talked about his relationship with his parents. One thing that I talked about, we all lived in the same house because of my grandmother had some money. I think her parents were itinerant or preachers that worked with several different churches, and I think they had some money. So when she came to California, I think she had some money. So she and my dad went and bought this apartment house in Berkeley, and we lived on the bottom floor, and there were 2 apartments upstairs. She had one, and we rented the other one out. And there's a little casita in the back that she rented that one out too. So, and my mother couldn't stand her, and she didn't like my mother very well. But my mother's background is totally different than my grandmother's, and I won't go to that. That could be a story for a different time. But I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure. Oh, the husband. Yeah, thank you. So Bert was he was a single guy, and as he got older, I'm 82 now, maybe about my age. My father helped him move to California and helped him get an apartment. And we visited him every now and then, and he would come to our house for a Christmas dinner was his typical thing. And what the kids got, and you've probably seen these little, they look like little books, and you open them up, and there's all these different lifesavers inside. We got one of those every year. That was the deal from our grandfather. But it's so different now because today, kids, I mean, us and my grandchildren and all the families, it's a tremendous goal to be in touch with these people. How you doing? What are you seeing? We never had that with my grandparents either. When my mother's was born and raised in Berkeley. I think I remember I saw her father a couple of times, know nothing about the guy, except I know he had a huge drinking problem, as did my mother. Which is probably why she couldn't stand grandmother, because grandmother didn't touch a drop. And I think she thought there was, oh, well, you think you're so great. And here, you know, it was one of those things. So anyway, yeah, my dad helped my grandfather move to California and live a life here.
Gotcha. Are you now ready to step forward? What I would suggest, I have summarized, you sent me 6 of the photos. Okay. I can run those very easily. I can also open up the ones you just put on the flash drive.
Let me talk for a minute.
Got it.
Do that. Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, there. No, because I have some things to show. I'm a show and tell type. I have a whole box full here. We'll see. You could take pictures of them. Is this gonna work? Okay. Yeah, there's so much commonality between our stories. It's great. You talked about gold coins. So I have a story about gold coins and I'm wearing them. So my name is Katia Miller, and I know the most about the Miller family lineage, which would be my father's father, who lived in Oakland, well, I met him in Oakland. We would drive the old cars like an Oldsmobile or something from the South Bay to Oakland to visit them regularly. But so I know a lot about that lineage because when my father sold his business, which I'm going to tell you about in San Francisco, he spent 25 years researching our genealogy. And so I inherited this book along with my sisters. I want you. There's information there about the process he went through to research Jewish genealogy, starting with the Latter-day Saints group in Oakland, and then transferring over to the Jewish library in San Francisco, where I think they helped him a lot. But so I inherited this whole book, and my sisters did, and my children, all the 5 grandchildren inherited books from my father. And I get very emotional talking about him, just like you guys. I mean, these stories are just amazing of our family lineage. So my grandfather married, I think it was an arranged marriage in Vilnius with Bertha Swirsky. And they lived in Vilnius and had 2 boys, my father's 2 older brothers. And then my grandfather, all of his siblings left Lithuania. Well, they called it Russia, for London. They all went to London, and that whole family's still there. But my grandfather wanted to come to America. So he came over in about 1913, I'm guessing. And then 2 years later, my grandmother would have come over with the 2 boys. And they ended up in Salt Lake City, Utah for about 20 years and had 3 more sons and a daughter. And they had their own baseball team. Yeah. So do you have any pictures of the brothers? I don't know. Oh, so that would be Jaime Miller, who you see the book in his hand. So they might have been scholars or rabbis. I'm not sure, because when we returned to Vilnius 2 years ago, I went to Vilnius and found out that there's a lot of yeshivas, educational institutions in Vilnius, as well as museums and other things. So that's Jaime. And is there another one of his wife? No. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's good information. So he was quite educated, sounds like. So my grandfather had a jewelry store downtown, in Salt Lake City. But then 20 years later, they came and ended up in Oakland because the oldest brother had come out here and to work in a cannery. And so little by little, they moved out to Oakland. And then my grandfather ended up with 2 jewelry stores in downtown Oakland. And because I became a jeweler and metalsmith, I inherited some of the gemstones that he no longer needed. But when we would go visit them, we would receive silver coins from him that he had left over from the store. But my mother got the gold coins, which I'm now wearing because I inherited some of them. And my grandmother was a good business person. So she encouraged my father and the next older brother to buy crates of oranges and apples wholesale and then sell them retail. So they started a business that became the Groceteria in the Mission District of San Francisco. And from there, just before the war, they bought 2 corner stores in San Francisco, I think on Geary Street, maybe. And that started their retail business. and they ended up with 17 supermarkets from Corte Madera to, which now it's Silicon Valley, but then it was the orchards. Little man markets. Here, because the two corner grocery stores that they bought were owned by Mr. Little and Mr. Man. So they just put it together, Little Man Markets. And so 2 years ago, my daughter was living in Berlin for 10 years, and she always wanted me to come visit. I finally came to visit, and I thought, well, what else can I do while I'm in Berlin or in Europe? And I decided I wanted to go to Vilnius, see what was left. Lithuania. Okay, let's see, what did I leave out? Okay, so we went to Berlin, my husband and daughter and I went to, well, we all went to Vilnius together. What do I have? Oh, okay, this is Berlin, and this is right near her apartment. This is a Jewish synagogue. I think you're right. Oh, it was rebuilt. Okay. Because there were guards there all the time. Yeah. Do you remember the name of it? No. Open the doors and people will come in. Righteous people will come in. Yeah. Beautiful. So open the gates. Yeah. So this was right near my daughter's apartment, which she still has, but she rents it out. Next slide. So she got together with a German guy for a few years and moved out of her apartment and rented it to a Ukrainian family. Oh, that's next. So this is near some large building. I guess they had found all these gravestones and didn't allow building in this area. And now it's just a wild field, but you can see these really old stones with the Hebrew writing, maybe Yiddish or Hebrew, I'm not sure. So this is in my daughter's apartment that she rented to the Ukrainian. I get emotional. So there's a mother and daughter. Well, let's see. A mother. She has two sons, and her mother lives with them in my daughter's one-bedroom apartment. It was just a way to get started in Berlin, and they're still there. But the really emotional part here is that they must have made us such an amazing dinner, and it was like borscht, It was all these things that my grandmother used to make. It was really strange. It was like my grandmother was there cooking for us, but they were from, and that grandmother was from the Ukraine. So the Ukrainian cuisine is continuous from, for the last 100 or more years. Next. So this, I don't know the name of this synagogue, but we were celebrating someone's birthday and they wanted to go to this rock show. It was an Israeli musician was playing at a synagogue. Is this a movie? This one is a movie? No. Okay, maybe show it. Oh no, I think the next one is. Anyway, you can just thumb through. There's about 4 of the synagogues. Okay. But those stained glass windows are beautiful. And I think this was also reconstructed. Yeah. They were all bombed. Right. Right.
And the same with those, that cemetery. You've got the tombstone, but those were all destroyed as well. Fortunately, they used the tombstone for building things. Sometimes they used it for building streets and some roads, as you mentioned. So therefore, they resurrected it and moved back. But
Oh,
all
interesting.
of that was destroyed, not only in Lithuania and wherever else, Russia.
Interesting. You should sit here so that this records you. Oh, you should be able to. Oh. Yeah. So that was the rock concert at a synagogue, in the synagogue. It was pretty fun. Okay. There's probably some more of the synagogue, but you could move through. Yeah, just show the front, I think, of the museum, or the first one. I didn't label them all perfectly. Oh, this is inside the museum. I was surprised there was even a Jewish museum, but I think it's state-sponsored Jewish museum in Berlin. The German restitution attempts, great. Yeah. Well, it was a little strange to have a Jewish daughter living in Berlin, but I'm a very trusting mother, and it seems like it shouldn't have been a problem, and it wasn't a problem having her there. And she loved it. She had lived in New York for 10 years before and loved the culture there and moved to Berlin because of the culture. They have a lot going on. So this is Oh, okay, we're good. So we have a short clip here of in Kaunas, Lithuania, where this is our guide here, and she took us. But these stones that we were walking on, I could just feel the presence of my grandparents there. It was pretty amazing. So I wanted to get that view. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute and then you can talk about it. Yeah, because you probably know more than me. Okay. Oh, Kaunas. Okay. These are from. So here's our guide talking about the Kaunas synagogue. It's a very short clip.
This is a synagogue in Kaunas, one of the 20 at least. So this is Ezrat Nashim. It's now the Faculty of Arts. That's why you can see kind of the, the theatrical curtain. Yeah.
She was a great guide. I have her name if you're interested. And she had family in Kaunas, and we became good friends, actually. And my husband John went to her house because she was having trouble with her son, stepson, who was getting violent on her. So John went and visited them.
Go ahead. So this is
So on our way to Kaunas, we stopped at a grave site. Well, it was a big cemetery. Is that what you're going to put up now? Okay. And she had the guy that was managing it look up the names Miller and
this is the grave of
Swirsky.
Miller. See, it's Miller. And the mother is Frida, and it's amazing that it's all written in Hebrew. Frida Bat Yaakov, and the father is Zalman ben Yosef. And so the wife is born in 1899 and husband in 1898. And he died first in 63, and the wife died in 77. They commemorate the son who was a boy, and he was 16 years old, and he perished in 45. His name was Leba. He was son of Zalman.
This one?
This one, yes.
Okay.
And the other son was killed in 41. So they had two sons, and they lost both of them during the war.
Can you imagine going to a cemetery in Vilnius and seeing your family lineage? I don't know that they were directly related to me, but they had the same last names. So I'm sure that there was some connection there. Did you have a question? You could go on to the next. Yeah. That was in Kaunas. I was just taken by all the brick buildings and the art. They, like, on one of those, it's a real modern mezuzah in the old town of Kaunas. And on the other side was that thumbprint that just was embedded into the brick that I thought was pretty amazing. It was just art that they had in this old town of Kaunas, where I'm sure my grandparents spent time. So she took us to this little museum in Vilnius. It was just an old house. It was nothing special. And she was half asleep because her son would keep her up at night, actually. But she knew Jewish history so well that she was like half asleep talking to us. But there's one clip in there. Let's see which one you have of where she was showing a wealthy Jewish family. Oh, good, great.
19th century, but
Some
more
of their
At the end, she mentions
in the
Steplestones. So, so
but
I
some
brought this Atlantic magazine article about the Steplestones. That's okay. It's okay.
nineteenth century, but
some
more
of their these are very wealthy people.
yeah, these are certainly very wealthy people because they have pictures taken in the year. What is the year over here?
1897.
1897.
And-
This is very early.
Do you know their family?
Yes, yes. This is a family of Margolis and Shabbat. Shabbat and Margolis, for whom we saw the Stolperstein. Margolis, the doctor,
I see.
and
So there's a Stepelstein right in front of the house where they used to live. So, and I didn't know it, but it sounds like this was like the center of Zionism in Vilnius. That's what she mentioned in one of the talks. Oh. Let me share one thing. So we're all talking about, we're talking about sharing with our grandchildren and grandchildren. So I've written a children's book about the Statue of Freedom. And so I've been in circles of children's book authors. And there was one man, David Weitzman, who wrote this book, My Backyard History Book, in the 80s. And it's a way to guide your kids into asking you questions about your life and the history you know, so that it doesn't get lost. So I recommend that. It's hard to find. I think you can find it online, but it's really sweet, and or take a picture of it. And then I made this for my grandsons, of their, just a quick little lineage, of their parents, grandparents, so that they would, I made that when they were like really little, 2 and 3. But I like to pass things on as it's appropriate. Whatever age they are, whatever they can handle, I share with them. Oh,
Actually, at the edge of the ghetto, you see how the ghetto was. So your house is over here at the edge.
And they
See?
escaped through the sewer system.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is where we already worked.
oh yeah, we were staying right in the center of town in Vilnius. So I guess she was talking about where we were staying. I have a lot of good footage, but a lot of it was too long. I didn't want to have a long presentation here. Right. That makes sense. There's one more place we went to, Hamburg, if you can find some of that, because I found out that all of our grandparents and actually most people coming to the United States came through Hamburg, the port of Hamburg. So John had a friend there, and so we stayed in Hamburg. And I met my daughter, and we went to this port in Hamburg, and I took a few pictures there. Yeah, graphic. Yeah. Yeah. So this was, they had beautiful posters in Hamburg. Uh, Can you go back to that? It's so beautiful. They had amazing posters. Right. Right. Except the wealthy Jews were not. Oriental cruise. There's another image there of that says Ballenstadt on it. And I think the man that owned the port of entry or exit was Mr. Ballin, who was a wealthy Jew. And so his name is on that poster. Oh, that's in the mess hall. Yeah. So I think they would stay like 3 days and get some good meals before they got on the boats. Well, this I found in Hamburg at the port, some of the images. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Is there one more? Just know of Hamburg, Ballenstadt. Should be number 6. And one more thing I'll share. I get mail from the World Monument Fund, and they're always raising money to fix not just synagogues, all kinds of buildings around the world. Yeah, oh yeah. So Ballenstadt, right? Port, it says Port of Dreams. So I think it's Mr. Ballen is the one that owns this. Look at these people. Oh my God. But they come from all over Europe, Eastern Europe, and I heard Africa too. Africa. I'm not sure why they would come from Africa, but anyway, these faces are amazing. So thank you for listening. It was quite a trip.
So we'll wrap up for today. Next meeting, I'm going to go into the area that's called clusters, cluster study, where in studying your family, the trick is you begin to put together all the clusters of people around them. And from that, it's sometimes easier to find your family in your research. So that's what we'll focus on. Okay. See you in a month.